Welcome to WatchMojo UK, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 alien close encounters in Britain. Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're looking at UFO sightings and alien abductions that have happened throughout the UK over the years. Let us know in the comments if you've ever had a close encounter of the third kind. Number 20, the Essex Trio. On the 10th of September 2005, numerous witnesses from around Loughton in Essex reported seeing trios of bright orbs flying through the sky, described as being orange and balls of fire. Many of the people were so shocked by what they saw that they called 999 to make their reports, apparently thinking that the UFOs were a police emergency. Years later, and documents relating to the events became public, and they'll send a chill down your spine. At least one witness said they felt as though they were being watched by the orbs. It appears Essex is a favourite spot for these orbs, as they were seen again in Romford a few days later. Number 19, the Norfolk UFO sightings. Believe it or not, Norfolk is the UFO capital of England, with close to a third of Norwich residents surveyed in 2021 saying they'd had some kind of run-in with extraterrestrials. Remarkably, 2020 alone saw a spate of UFO sightings across the country, around 56 reported. One of the more interesting sightings was seen by 11 witnesses in November 2020, where bright lights were spotted moving erratically through the sky. It was also noted that UFO sightings increased during the first lockdown that year. It seems many spent the months indoors, looking out the window, hoping that something interesting would happen, and it did. Number 18, ageist aliens. Though it would be proof that we're not alone in the universe, most people probably don't want to get abducted by aliens. But what if you encountered some aliens that said they didn't think you were good enough to be abducted? That's exactly what happened to a man called Alfred Burtu when he saw a flying saucer descend near a canal in Hampshire in 1983. According to him, he approached and even communicated with the aliens, but being as he was 77, they decided he was too old to be worth their time and told him to clear off. That's gotta hurt. Number 17, Elsie Oakinson's lost time. While many UFO incidents are destined to fade into obscurity, Elsie Oakinson wrote an entire book detailing her encounter with a spacecraft in 1978 called One Step Beyond, a personal UFO abduction experience. Oakinson claimed that she saw a UFO descend above the A5 in Northamptonshire while she was driving, and that when she drove under it, her journey mysteriously took an additional 15 minutes. Lost time has been a staple of UFO abduction mythology for years, and since she did see the UFO, that was the obvious conclusion. She went on to do additional research into ufology. Number 16, the disappearance of William Schaffner. American pilot William Schaffner ended up getting stationed in RAF Binbrook in Lincolnshire and was sent out in September 1970 to investigate reports of a mysterious object late one evening. Schaffner tragically never made it back to base, disappearing over the North Sea. A month later, and a long search operation was able to recover the wreckage of his BAC Lightning fighter plane, but Schaffner's body has never been found. Though an RAF squadron leader claimed that the mysterious object was actually him during a training exercise in 2014, it's still not clear why Schaffner never made it back to base, or exactly what happened to him. Were aliens to blame after all? Number 15, Bexley Heath UFO encounter. Margaret Fry was simply trying to walk to her doctor's when her journey was rudely interrupted by a flying saucer. This happened in London in 1955 and is one of the capital's most notable sightings. It happened when close encounters were already on the uptick. The UFO in question was also witnessed by her GP and a handful of kids nearby, and was a relatively standard flying saucer, which landed at a nearby junction before quickly leaving again. Decades on, and a local paper embarked on a campaign to find the children that Fry said also saw the craft, but it doesn't look like anybody came forward. Number 14. Degmont Woods Incident. Also called the Taylor Incident, in 1979, a man called Bob Taylor was abducted by aliens in a rural area of West Lothian in Scotland. Taylor returned home late one evening in such a state, with his clothes torn and ruined, that when the police interviewed him, they decided he must have been assaulted. The only problem was that Taylor distinctly remembered seeing an enormous flying saucer. In the decades until his death in the 2000s, Taylor always stuck to his story, and everybody he knew testified to the fact he wouldn't have made up something like that. Today, there's a plaque in Degmont Woods to honor Taylor and his story. Number 13. Berwyn Mountain UFO Incident. Was an earthquake in 1974 actually the impact of an alien spaceship crashing into a mountain range? Lots of people in Wales certainly think so. The Berwyn Mountain UFO Incident is so famous on the other side of the River Severn, it's been nicknamed the Welsh Roswell. As the story goes, a bright light was seen in the sky over the mountains, and the sighting was followed by an earthquake. Earthquakes are quite rare in the UK, so feeling a 3.5 magnitude tremor in Wales didn't go unnoticed. However, no impact crafter from any kind of aircraft, be it human or alien, was found in the mountains, though many still believe something supernatural was to blame. Number 12. Cosford UFO Mystery. Along with Norfolk, Shropshire is up there on the list of aliens' favourite destinations on the British Isles. But the Cosford UFO mystery isn't the mystery of why aliens are in Shropshire to begin with. Though that certainly is mysterious, it's a particularly strange encounter that happened in 1993. Triangular UFOs were spotted across the British countryside, most notably at bases RAF Cosford and RAF Shawbury, where many experienced airmen also saw the phenomena and weren't able to identify it. The Ministry of Defence even investigated because the reports were so credible, and it remains a major part of Shropshire's local folklore. Number 11. Kim Wilde meets E.T. She's been out of the public eye for a while, but back in 2009, Kim Wilde came out publicly to say she'd had a close encounter in her garden nonetheless. Yes, aliens descended on Kim Wilde's house in Hertfordshire and hovered around in the sky for the better part of 2 hours, in a craft Wilde describes as being like the moon, but also not like the moon, as it was bright and clearly visible, but moving erratically, something the moon doesn't do. Not to worry though, somebody else saw the UFO as well, and wouldn't you know it, they took a picture. Wilde later dedicated a song to the aliens that visited her that day. Number 10. Diamond in the Sky. In 1990, 2 hikers outside the small village of Calvine, Scotland, made history with one of the most convincing UFO photos ever taken. However, bizarrely, this photo was allegedly covered up in the 1990s by the Ministry of Defence, which apparently had a one-man department investigating UFOs for a number of years. Before the existence of this department was even public knowledge, the photo of a large diamond-shaped object did the rounds of various intelligence organisations before vanishing forever. Only a reconstruction of the supposed image remains. Number 9. The Berkshire Rugby Ball. Nobody expects a rugby ball to come flying at them when they're piloting an Airbus 34,000 feet over Berkshire, but that's apparently what happened to one unlucky pilot. Only 20 miles away from Heathrow Airport, the pilot was convinced this mysterious object was going to crash right into the cockpit. He even ducked. It was reported to the authorities as a near miss in 2014, and an investigation was launched, ultimately with no results. To this day, there's no explanation for what exactly he saw. Number 8. Todmorden UFO Incident. Hypnosis has been known to work wonders for alleged abductees. It certainly did when it was used on PC Alan Godfrey after a close encounter in 1980. He clearly recollected a craft the size of a bus in the northern village of Todmorden. After various calls from the public who were concerned about a herd of cows escaping, presumably spooked by the ship, a stranger named Joseph supposedly took Godfrey aboard, where a number of little creatures, or robots, examined him. Several other officers and a lorry driver also claimed to have seen something similar, adding credibility to his account. Number 7. The Dudley Dorito. The Midlands' most famous alien spaceship, the Dudley Dorito, has been sighted many times in recent years. Not only have there been eyewitnesses, but some of them have even managed to photograph or film the mysterious shape. The object gets its name from the area where it appears and its triangular shape, looking like a big crisp in the sky with a few bright lights to boot. For at least a decade, it's plagued the skies, roughly 5 times the size of a jumbo jet, and people are still at a loss for explanations. Number 6. The Copper Man. The oldest alien incident on our list occurred throughout the 18th and 19th centuries in and around Portsmouth, where a mysterious entity, retroactively called the Copper Man, was repeatedly sighted. While only really known to locals, this story of a human with metal skin, first recorded in 1798, is incredibly weird. A young maid even saw the man with metal flesh walk out of the sea and then go back in again, disappearing. But this frightening creature hasn't been seen at all since 1801. Number 5. The Stanmore Saucer. When police were called out to a woman's house late one evening in 1984 because she claimed to have seen a UFO, they presumably didn't expect to also be faced with the object in question. However, when they arrived, the mysterious craft was still visible overhead and stuck around long enough that they had a chance to do a rough sketch of it. The RAF also reported not having any planes in the sky that evening. As the story goes, the police even attempted, unsuccessfully, to follow it down the M1. Number 4. Ilkley Moor Alien Sighting. On a cold evening in 1987, retired policeman Phil Spencer was out for a walk on Ilkley Moor, Yorkshire, on his way to visit family. He also had an idea to take photographs of strange lights he'd seen on the moors, but definitely got more than he bargained for. He saw a strange being, took a photo, and chased it back to a UFO, which quickly took off. The photo was then analysed by optical physicist and ufologist Dr. Bruce Maccabee. The conclusion was that it had not been edited and the creature was no known animal. Number 3. The Envoy. The Ministry of Defense may have acted shadily on occasion, but in this instance, they apparently didn't think anything of a strange man claiming to be an envoy for an extraterrestrial diplomat who wanted to speak to the authorities. The man said he'd been in contact with aliens, specifically an alien named Algar, since he was age 7, and that Algar was finally ready to reveal himself publicly. Unfortunately, before this could happen, Algar was supposedly killed by some other aliens. The MOD never chased it up. We can kind of understand why though, it does make for quite the story. Number 2. The Falkirk Triangle. When you think of the UFO capital of the world, the first thing that springs to mind probably isn't the village of Bonnybridge, Scotland, also nicknamed the Falkirk Triangle. But it's this area's claim to fame ever since sightings began in 1992. For whatever reason, aliens seem drawn to this patch of land between Falkirk, Stirling, and Bonnybridge. Though skeptics believe that it's all a scheme by a local politician, Billy Buchanan, to attract tourists. But there's still hundreds of reports of strange lights and objects in the night sky. Number 1. The Rendlesham Forest Incident. So significant it's nicknamed Britain's Roswell, what happened at Rendlesham Forest in Suffolk in 1980 has baffled people for decades. Centering on an airbase RAF Woodbridge over a few nights at the end of December, many high-ranking officials claimed to see a UFO come down in the woods. Personnel went on to investigate and found a glowing metal object that left burn marks behind. The incident spooked so many people that the MOD were forced to issue a public statement that national security was not at risk. Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo UK and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.